If it means having a final showdown with his most hated foe Merlyn, Oliver Queen will move heaven and earth to finally bring justice to the man who broke up his beloved family. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Green Arrow issue number 11 and find out together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, Green Arrow, and by extension the rest of the Green Arrow family, had been shanghaied into servitude by Amanda Waller. They invaded a military bunker with plans to liberate sensitive information from what was left over of the Sanctuary Project. Of course, here's the twist: the Sanctuary Project is more than capable of defending itself, with super advanced and super realistic hard light constructs that in this case take the shape of the old Justice League. Because Ollie has lots of issues with any group of people he's managed to spend any amount of time with. Luckily, Roy and Ollie are reinforced because in the previous issue, Green Arrow had managed to reunite with basically every other member of his superhero family who we haven't seen in a while. And while help from Arrowette, Red Arrow, and Red Canary is deeply appreciated in turning the tide against this fake Justice League, Ollie in the back of his mind does feel a little bit of shame, wondering, oh no, I literally just got my extended super family back. Am I a jerk by putting them in harm's way once again? That's very much a discussion for another day. What we know for sure, though, is that in moments like this, when his back is up against the wall, Green Arrow comes in clutch. Because, hey, they don't actually need to fight the Hollow Justice League, they're just after that Sanctuary mask, which Ollie is able to grab quite easily with the proper allocation of arrow connected to a big long piece of rope. Honestly, I love how absolutely low-tech this is. He didn't need a big, fancy, expensive bat gadget to do this, he just went purely analog and it ended up being the absolutely right thing to do in the situation. With that, Green Arrow and his team managed to escape the military bunker before it blows up. It's also around here too that Connor Hawke brings up the fact, hey, Ollie, you've got the chance to spend some time with everyone who's ever been important in your life over the last 40 odd years, but hey, did Roy ever get the chance to get reunited with his daughter for like more than a few minutes? It feels like that should probably be our next port of call, yes? And while that's certainly a happy mission, unfortunately Green Arrow isn't done with this mission yet. He calls into Waller and demands that she hold up the end of her bargain. Ollie wants to know where Merlyn is and he wants it bad. Waller says that she'll actually do the Emerald Archer one better. She won't just tell him where he can find Merlyn, she'll send him there. And it's after that the book actually ends up very cleverly switching gears as the internal monologue switches over to Merlyn's, as Joshua Williamson very deftly retells us the evil Archer's origin story while also having to split the difference between the classic incarnation of Merlyn from old Green Arrow stories and also all that stuff from the new TV show that's kinda sorta been the canon for the last decade, give or take. In a flashback, we see that indeed Malcolm Merlyn was a amazing circus trick archer. It was while doing the circus circuit, Malcolm Merlyn would end up coming across a young Oliver Queen. The two didn't know it at the time, but from that moment forward, their lives would be inseparably intertwined. Flash forward, and Malcolm has actually used his skills to pull himself out of poverty. Now he's a big mover and shaker in Star City, working for, you guessed it, Ollie's parents. He also has a son of his own, Tommy Merlyn, Ollie's best friend in debauchery. In fact, I think the implication here is that Oliver Queen is such a party boy wreck at this point in his life, he has no idea that his friend's father is actually the circus performer that he idolized, as well as, you guessed it, one of the world's deadliest assassins who has been supplementing his income by working for Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins for years. After that, you probably know the rest of the story off by heart. Oliver Queen gets lost on a desert island, is forced to fend for himself, is ultimately humbled, and when he returns home, he seeks to further hone his archery skills and ends up asking Merlyn for help. Merlyn is more than happy to teach Oliver because he sees in him a man who he can actually pass on. His legacy is the world's greatest archer too. Lord knows it's not going to be to Tommy, who has decided to take up a life of boardrooms and graphs, making him an absolute failure in his father's eyes. Of Of course, once Green Arrow found out that his mentor was a killer, their relationship quickly imploded. Merlyn would challenge Green Arrow to an archer's duel to prove who was truly the greatest. Merlyn would lose, and from that day forward, they would be arch nemesises. And after a lifetime of failure, Merlyn decided that he needed to change up his tactics. He needed to go back to what made him such a great archer in the first place, taking his time, being patient, lining up the perfect shot, and aiming for the heart. It was because of this Merlyn ended up getting in league with Amanda Waller, using her Suicide Squad tech to implant Oliver with a device not unlike the bombs that keep Task Force X in line, only this device would teleport Ollie and his family around time and space, completely at random, in doing so robbing them of their happy ending. Of course, Oliver had uncovered this conspiracy and defeated Merlyn back in the first arc, choosing as punishment to strand him in some strange dark future vortex dimension. That was the last time we saw Merlyn, and as we check on in with him here, he actually tried to make the most out of his banishment. He stewed in his rage for a while before eventually thriving. In fact, Merlyn surviving in this pocket dimension is actually very similar to how Ollie survived on the island. That's why when Green Arrow finally does show up again to try and even the score between these two, Merlyn is ready. You see, thanks to timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly nonsense, Old Man Merlyn here has had an unknown amount of years to look over the Sanctuary psychiatry tapes. And in doing so, Merlyn ended up uncovering one hell of a revelation about Oliver Queen, mainly that, well, he's not on any of these psychiatry tapes because Oliver doesn't think he has a problem. Man, you know, some men will don green hoods and become master archers instead of going to therapy, am I right? To make a long story short, Merlyn thought that the best way to take down his most hated foe was to strike at his family, to cut out Oliver Queen's heart. Only now he knows that actually the opposite is true. The best way to kill Oliver Queen once and for all is to actually turn his family against him, and thanks to the hologram technology of Sanctuary, Merlyn is able to do just that as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Green Arrow issue number 11, and I gotta say, this arc really does move from strength to strength. Again, if you followed me or this channel long enough, you'll know that Green Arrow is my favorite superhero, my favorite DC character, and yet Merlyn, I can't say has ever really been one of my favorite villains. Oh, I've liked him, I respect it when he shows up in things, but his history and motivations have always just been so incredibly mangled and mishandled, so hats off to Joshua Williamson here for trying to tie together a bunch of disparate threads, and actually A, make Merlyn's story actually make sense, and B, actually make him scary and a worthwhile antagonist for Green Arrow to try and overcome. In fact, hey, if I can give him all the credit in the world here, I'm actually very much reminded with what Jeff Johns had done with the Reverse Flash early on in his run. Really excited too to see how this final battle and this big arc ultimately ends up shaking out. I would give this one a solid 8.5 out of 10. This is great stuff. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way, everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.